UFC Fight Night 77. A little recap and a little my thoughts on what happened in tonight's cards. And of course, the main card was Vitor Belfort versus Dan Henderson. And boy, Henderson's 45 and he's still fighting. He's still fighting. I think Randy Couture was 46 when he left. I'm not sure. I think he was around that age as well. I think Dan, though, before we get to that fight, I mean, there's a lot to talk about Henderson and his legacy and Vitor Belfort and how much of a threat he still is. But let's talk about the other fights. And I thought tonight was really good. With a lot of the fighters really were busy. They were busy in the cage, even though all of them didn't end in knockout or submission. They really were working in there, and I really appreciate that when fighters are not just really standing around and they're really just going at it, whether it might not be flashy or entertaining, but they're really working in there to get the win. So the first two fights, they were a little bit lackluster. I thought those two fights were I wasn't really interested in them. That was Corey Anderson defeating Fabio Maldonado. Sorry if I butchered the names as well. Unanimous decision. And we had Rashid Magandov defeat Gilbert Burns, unanimous decision. But Alex Oliveira defeating Petri, I think it's Petri, Hallman, knockout, round 3, 51 seconds. Now, this is in Brazil, and I thought Oliveira did a great job of finishing the fight. This guy, I think he used to be a freaking bull rider. Really? A bull rider? But he's a rising star, like everybody is saying. I was really impressed with some of his striking and overall him finishing the fight. But the best fight, I think, of the night was Thomas Almeida defeating Anthony Burchik, knockout, round 1, 424. And I gotta say, this Thomas kid, he was very impressive. I saw a lot of the combinations. He was patient, very patient. He picked the shots. Anthony was actually from Brazil, was fighting out of Brazil, and he was like the favorite. And Anthony came in and he was swinging. It was a very entertaining fight. They were both swinging. They were both throwing combinations, but Thomas definitely was more accurate, pinpointed in his strikes, and really just gave it. Thomas gave it to Anthony, and it was a great fight for Thomas. I was really impressed by this kid. I mean, I liked also when he was blocking some of Anthony's punches, he would actually really just, once Anthony was striking, he would really tap his hand away and really counter with a couple strikes of his own. He also did a spinning elbow that landed, but his strikes were definitely on the money. Then we had Glover Teixeira defeating Patrick Cummins, TKO, round 2, 112. That was actually a really good fight. When I say people were getting busy and working in the ring, these two fighters were very much working in the ring. Teixeira looked very impressive. Really gave it to Patrick Cummins and ended up knocking him out. I felt like both fighters came out there and really gave a show, and I honestly thought it could go either way, but then towards the later on round, especially after round 1, after like the split second end of round 1, these two were just going at it, and I was like, oh man, the round's over, and they're still trying to fight each other. But once we began to round 2, you could see Teixeira really working his magic and taking out Patrick Cummins. So good for Glover Teixeira. I thought he did a fantastic job in there. He looked good. So did Thomas and Alex Oliveira, and I gotta say, Alex Oliveira was the most, not generic, it was the most basic of knockouts. He landed a great straight right to the face of Hallman, and then he landed another one that really just sealed the deal and hit him right in the chin and knocked him out. But I really gotta say, the most entertaining fight to me was Thomas versus Anthony, and Teixeira was very entertaining as well. It started really getting good, and he finished the fight. But we'll move on to the main card with Vitor Belfort versus Dan Henderson. And both of them are legends. Both of them are Hall of Famers, of course. Dan Henderson, I like Dan Henderson. I think he's really... you see him take out his teeth all the time? I like when him and Rampage interact with each other. But Vitor Belfort as well. This guy, I mean, I still I think the one thing I really still remember is when Anderson Silva just knocked his ass out. I was like, oh, this guy's supposed to be super dangerous. But He does. He still is. He still has that quick striking. He definitely just goes right at you. So I didn't really know what to expect in this fight. Was it going to be, like a Dan Henderson and Shogun Rua? But we start off with the fight, and they're just really feeling each other. They're just not doing anything. Dan Henderson does throw a couple leg kicks, but they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything for the longest time. I'm just like, it seems like somebody's playing, the UFC game, and they're just not. You got two controllers, you got one user, you got the second user, and you just leave the controllers there, and they're just standing there, just looking at each other and waiting, which is really crazy because then Vitor Belfort did make his move and landed this vicious leg kick to the head. Dan Henderson caught him right there in the face, and Dan Henderson ended up dropping, and Vitor really pounced on him, and it looked like Dan Henderson was almost going to recover, but Vitor was really throwing those blows right to the face when Dan Henderson was on the ground, and caught him with one. For a split second, Dan Henderson went limp, but I think he recovered. I think he recovered a little bit. I mean, it looked like he was going to throw a kick. Looks like he was still trying to recover from it, but for a split second, he did go limp, and they called the fight. And Dan Henderson was pissed. This guy's like, "Are you serious? Are you goddamn serious?" But you got to give it to Vitor Belfort. Oh, man, that leg kick was so nice. And then him finishing the fight like that. I mean, he did catch Dan Henderson with quite a bit of good shots after the leg kick. He hit him a couple times right there by the chin. Give it I don't know, Dan Henderson, I think it is time. A lot of people feel like it's time for him to hang up the gloves. We'll see how he feels. I didn't sit and watch the talk. Them get interviewed. But if Dan Henderson does decide to retire, that's fine. I mean, he's definitely he's a legend. He's definitely a legend. And Vitor Belfort, 4th ranked in middleweight. So very interesting. Very interesting how I didn't know he was still around that area. We'll see if he'll continue to move up. I think Vitor still has a lot of fight left in him. But then again, it's an aging Dan Henderson. So I like Vitor to really, definitely fight some other opponents and see where he's really at. But great fight night. I really did enjoy it. I thought the first 2 fights were a little bit lackluster, but it really just picked up with Oliveira really knocking out Hallman with some great straight right. I don't want to say hooks, just straight rights. Thomas really looking very impressive going into Brazil and coming out with a win. Just those two were just really going at it. When I was hoping that it'd go a little bit longer, but Thomas' striking was just too much superior. And Teixeira looked very good with Cummins, and Vitor Belfort is Vitor Belfort. So thank you guys for listening. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Would really appreciate it. Comment below. Let me know your guys' thoughts on tonight's fights. Did you enjoy the fight night? I thought it was a really good one. I thought for free, really damn good one. But the first 2 fights weren't even that lackluster. I mean, there was, like I said, they were going to work and they were staying busy. So also, so if you like the video, if you like it. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys for listening, and until next time, till we talk more UFC. Oh my God, Ronda Rousey and Holly Holm. I'll have a video on that, and I've already had like a ton of video on that. I got a Canelo and Cotto. If you're a boxing fan, that fight is also a big one to look forward to this month. So a lot of big fights coming up this month. So thank you guys for listening. I'm Dan Henderson, and I'm out.